Hi, my name is Moo. I am going to tell you a story today. First, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The story is called The Price of Anger, a Father's Regret. One bright afternoon, a man stood in his driveway, proudly polishing his new car. It was his dream vehicle, sleek, shiny, and a symbol of his hard work. The sun bounced off its freshly waxed surface, and he admired how perfect it looked, without a single blemish. As he focused on his task, his 4-year-old son played nearby, running around in the yard, laughing and picking up small stones. His son adored spending time with him, and although he could not always understand the importance adults placed on certain things, he found his own ways to be close to his dad. As the man buffed the car, he did not notice that his son had wandered toward the car, holding a small stone in his hand. In his innocent curiosity, the boy thought he could help his dad, perhaps make the car even more special. Without thinking of the consequences, the boy pressed the stone against the shiny surface of the car and began dragging it along, creating long, swirling lines in the paint. When the man finally turned and saw what his son had done, rage overtook him in an instant. His temper flared, and his vision blurred with anger. He could not believe what he was seeing. His beautiful, flawless car now had deep, jagged scratches running across the side marks that would be costly and time-consuming to fix. Furious, he stormed over to his son, who stood frozen in place, confused and scared by his father's sudden outburst. Without thinking, the man grabbed the first thing he saw, a wrench that had been lying nearby, and, in his fury, brought it down on his son's small hands. He struck them again and again, shouting at his boy without realizing what he was doing or the damage he was causing. The child screamed in pain, tears streaming down his face as his father's rage continued to unleash itself on his tiny, fragile hands. It was not until the man finally stopped, breathing heavily with the wrench still clenched in his hand, that he looked down and saw the blood, the bruising, and the unnatural way his son's fingers were now twisted. The realization of what he had done hit him like a ton of bricks. His anger drained away in an instant, replaced by a sinking, horrible feeling in the pit of his stomach. The boy had collapsed, sobbing, clutching his injured hands to his chest. Panicked, the man scooped his son into his arms and rushed him to the hospital, praying that the damage was not as severe as it looked. But when they arrived and the doctors examined the boy's hands, the man's worst fears were confirmed. His son's small fingers were shattered beyond repair. The multiple fractures, along with the severe tissue damage, left the doctors with no choice but to amputate. The boy would never regain the use of his fingers. Hours later, after the surgery, the man sat beside his son's hospital bed, staring at the bandages wrapped around his son's now fingerless hands. He could not bring himself to speak, the weight of his actions pressing down on him like an unbearable burden. When his son finally woke, groggy from the pain and the medication, he blinked up at his father with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Daddy," the boy whispered, his voice filled with confusion and hurt, "when will my fingers grow back?" The man's heart shattered. He could not find any words to answer his son's simple, heartbreaking question. His throat tightened, and tears filled his eyes as he realized that there was nothing he could do to undo what had happened. His son, too young to understand the permanence of the situation, still held on to hope that his fingers might magically return. But the man knew better. His son's hands would never be the same. Unable to face his son's innocent gaze any longer, the man stood up and walked out of the hospital, his legs feeling like lead as he made his way back home. Every step felt heavy with guilt, his mind replaying the terrible scene over and over again. His son's screams echoed in his ears, haunting him with every breath. When he arrived home, the house felt cold and empty, a stark contrast to the warmth it had once held. He walked back to the driveway where the car still stood, untouched since the incident. The scratches his son had made were still there, glaring at him under the afternoon sun. Without thinking, the man let out a roar of anguish and began kicking the car with all his strength. Over and over again, he struck the car with his feet, trying to release the overwhelming guilt and pain that consumed him. But no matter how hard he kicked, nothing could make him feel better. The damage had been done, and it was irreversible. Exhausted and defeated, the man finally collapsed to the ground in front of the car, his body trembling with sobs. His eyes, red and swollen, drifted to the scratches on the car side. For the first time, he looked closely at what his son had done. And there, etched into the paint, were words that his son had carefully carved with the stone. "I love you, Dad." The man's chest tightened, and he felt his heart break all over again. His son had only been trying to show his love, to share a moment with his father in the way a child knows best. But in his blind rage, he had destroyed that love, taken away something precious from his son that could never be given back. He sat there for hours, staring at the message his son had left, weeping for what he had lost, for what they had both lost. And in that moment, he realized the true cost of his anger. It was not just the scratches on the car or the damage to an object. It was the irreparable harm he had caused to his son, the trust and bond that had been shattered, all because of a moment's fury. No amount of regret could fix what he had broken. And as he sat there, alone with his grief, the words his son had etched into the car would forever remain a reminder of the love he had taken for granted and the price he would pay for the rest of his life.